everyone! Today I'm going to show you two different ways on how to make a baseball cap for a stuffed animal. Now let's get started! I'm going to be honest, I thought this was going to be a really quick and easy video to make, but it was not that. I had 3 or 4 different attempts making this, and unfortunately the second attempt I worked so hard on and it turned out like this. It ended up looking like the top of a circus tent, so I didn't end up including it, but now let's get into the first version, which I think is the easiest. I first cut out a circle of thin cardboard using a pencil and string here to make the circle, but I'll have a pattern for this in the description box, and this is made to fit a Beanie Boo or any small stuffed animal. Now I'm just tracing a round object in the center to make a little circle. Now I'm going to start cutting into it, stopping at that circle we just drew. You'll want to try fitting in as many of these as you can without fully cutting them out. Now I'm going to start bending these individual pieces down, and this is because we're going to kind of shape this over our stuffed animal's head, so I'm just giving it a head start bending it. Now I'm just going to grab whatever stuffed animal I'm making this for and just shape this around her head, and you'll want to make sure all these pieces are evenly overlapping each other and there aren't any spaces. And once I've got the shape kind of in my hand, I'm going to start adding pieces of tape to the inside. You could also do them on the outside, but I'm going to keep adding tape until I can let go and it'll hold its shape. I tried doing this method for a bigger stuffed animal, but it didn't look quite right, so if you were to make this bigger, I would use the method I'm going to show later. Now I'm just trimming any extra around the bottom edge, making it as smooth as possible. Now I'm going to start cutting out the felt pieces that are going to cover this cap. I chose felt since it doesn't fray, and it's thick enough to cover that uneven texture on our cap frame, and I'm cutting out 6 of these pieces. Now I'm just going to be using hot glue to glue these felt pieces on, and you can really use any kind of glue you want. But if your glue is pretty runny and you're using felt, the felt will soak that up immediately, so you could just use a ton of it or let it dry a little before adding the felt. I left my triangle pieces a little bit long so I could fold it over the bottom edge, but that left the inside of the bottom edge of the cap really thick, so I'd recommend just cutting off any extra you have. Now I'm just going to use up the rest of the triangles to fully cover it. Next, I'm going to start making the bill of the hat, so I'm just going to grab some cardboard and my pattern and trace this and cut it out. After that, I'm going to cover this with regular fabric. You can always just use felt again, but I used this for the other hat and like the look. And with this one, I'm going to have to fold over the edges since this fabric frays. And if I were to do this again, I would definitely brush on the glue with a paintbrush so you don't have any globs showing through. I also didn't cover it to the very bottom since the very bottom won't be showing in the end. Now I've kind of just cut a similar shape around it and making some small cuts all around there, and then I'm just adding glue to the inside and folding this over. And now you can see why I should have applied the glue with a paintbrush. But now I'm just going to give this a head start by bending it, but only do this if you do want a curved bill. Now to help me attach this to the cap, I'm going to be making some cuts in the shape of a little arc, just the way my finger's drawing it, and that just helps it fit with the cap better. I know it's hard to see, but I'm making some shorter cuts towards the 2 ends and then making them bigger towards the middle. So once I fold them upwards, they should be curved like this. Now for a little extra step to make it look neat on the inside, I'm just cutting a piece of felt that I'm going to attach to the inside of this. And this is optional, but this just makes sure everything looks neat if the bill is kind of facing upwards. Now we can attach the bill to the cap, and if you want it curved a little, it'll kind of be facing down like this, but in the next method I'll show you how to make it face up. But now I'm just going to attach this using hot glue, and I had to be very careful when attaching this because there are gaps between those little flaps, so make sure it doesn't accidentally burn you. But now it is basically finished. I just added a little circle of felt on top, and then to make this more baseball themed, I cut out this little white W for the Washington Nationals baseball team. And since felt kind of sticks to each other, I just stuck it on like this, and then it is done. You can make this for any kind of baseball team you want. Now we can go on to the second method I tried, which has a little more of a cleaner look since it is covered in fabric. I'm first tracing my pattern on some thin cardboard, and I'm cutting out 6 of these like last time. And now I'm cutting out one more cardboard piece that is just a very thin, long rectangle, and you want this to be long enough to wrap around your stuffed animal's head. I made mine 1/4 inch thick, but you can make yours thinner. Now I'm going to start curving my little triangles before I cover them. You can probably do this after you've covered them though, because it makes them a little bit harder to glue on the fabric. Now I'm just brushing each piece with white school glue and then sticking them on my red fabric, and I'm going to stick them all down first before cutting them out. When they're dry, I can cut these out, making sure to leave a little border on the side so I can fold these over. I'm also going to cut all the points flat, but not too close to the cardboard, and that just helps when folding these over. And now if you're using plain school glue like me, you're really going to want to dab this on thick, since the fabric will start soaking up some of the glue immediately. And this can get really messy, but if your glue is really liquidy like mine, I'd recommend dabbing on the glue, letting it sit out for about 30 minutes, and then folding over the fabric, and that way the glue is a lot stickier and tackier. That's what I did with these next 3, and it definitely made it easier. Now we can finally start gluing these all together, and I'm using this little thin band as kind of a guide. I ended up sticking all of them to this strip of cardboard first, overlapping them slightly, but if I were to make this again, I would not do that. I would actually just start connecting the pieces to each other one by one. That way you know exactly how much to overlap them when you finally connect it to the band. The way I did it technically worked, but it was a little bit rough. But actually the benefits of sticking them all on first was it was pretty easy to glue these together. I just held the 2 points together, then added glue at the seams. Now I'm going to continue doing that until they're all connected. Next, I'm going to make another bill just like before and then attach it. I want mine curved, so I'm bending it a bit. The problem is I just have this thick block of a cap without any place to put it, so I just decided to cut out my own little arch to put this in. But since it looked so rough, I covered up the raw edges with some white felt. And if you want the cap to be curved and stick straight out like what I want here, just make this little cutout in advance. I'll have the patterns linked below. And that way the raw edges will already be covered and this will be much easier. Now I can just glue on the bill like before. After that, this cap is finished. As you can see, I added the white felt to cover up those raw edges, and I still have to add the red felt on the inside. But I think it turned out really cute, so let's try this on. This fits a Beanie Boo perfectly, but it honestly looks adorable on any size stuffed animal. But I really hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a baseball cap 2 ways. Don't forget to give this video a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time.